This is Gary Simmons, and this particular video is brought to you by Optimal Health Bridge, a leader in nutritional supplements with health and wellness being at the center of a happy life. Also by Full Body Healing, a free wellness education learning center. My guest today, it is my privilege and honor to bring Dr. David Ajibade. Did I get that right?
Very good, Ted. Gary,
Okay.
really good.
From the Brain and Body Foundation, Dr. David, how are you?
I'm well, Gary. How are you?
Yeah, well, I've been reading about, you're in Dallas, Texas today?
Yep.
And
Yeah,
you have
really.
electricity, so congratulations.
Thankfully, electricity and water. The same cannot be said for many parts of Texas and Oklahoma. So
Yeah,
they've been hit really bad. So
real
I'm grateful.
amazing devastation going on. Mother Nature is nothing to be trifled with.
That is true. Please call me David. We're good.
David, all right, that's good. You can call me Gary. How about that?
All right. Thanks, Gary.
All righty. Yeah, so just a full disclosure here, I met Dr. David, there I go again with the doctor. I met David through a mutual friend on a different Zoom call a few weeks ago. And since that time, we've become fast friends. And Dr. David has already introduced me to very important people to my life, including Dr. Harry Elwart, who's helping me with some cardiovascular issues. You have feet in both countries. You're half the time in Nigeria, half the time in the States. Is that how it works?
More time in Nigeria because we've been building the foundation, the Brain and Body Foundation, for about a while. But I think going forward, we'll be spending more time in the U.S.
Yeah, so you've got that nice logo there, the Brain and Body Foundation. Why don't we start with that, and then we'll backtrack to how you got to where you are now. But tell us about the Brain and Body Foundation.
Thanks. So, Brain and Body Foundation was established in 2015. It's both in Nigeria and the US. So it's a 501c3 foundation. And the initial idea was to address brain disorders in children. So in Nigeria, because of the poor healthcare facilities and availability, especially around the time of birth, kids are more prone to having birth trauma, jaundice. And because, like I said, we don't have enough or adequate care around that time and around that period, they're more prone to having all kinds of problems, everything from cerebral palsy to seizure disorders to malformations and so on and so forth. And we saw that area was just not being addressed satisfactorily. So we went to the government and we said we could help. And that's how the Brain and Body Foundation was birthed. It has grown. And when we say we could help, I meant we could help using nutrients, nutraceuticals, which are like pharmaceutical grade nutritional supplements, which target the brain and help the brain repair and fix itself. And so we did that for a while, but in the process, we started having a lot of, as many things as it is the story in many situations, we started having people coming to us with all kinds of problems, not just brain disorders. We're having genetic conditions like Down syndrome. Then we started having sickle cell disease patients coming our way, and so we had to continually expand. So we address now, at this point, under the mandate of the federal government, we address all kinds of chronic disorders, and even things like COVID-19 as well. And we teach about these things. So it's not just about treating, but also to educate the public on what they need to know and what they need to do about their healthcare, about the health and that of their families. And we are also on TV about 4 times a week to educate the public on these things.
The birth difficulties in Nigeria, hospitals and doctors are not available so readily as it is in the States. So I think in a previous Zoom, you told me that if I got it the right way around, it's either 30% or 70% of the population give birth outside of a medical institution or without the facility of a doctor present. Is that correct?
70%, yes.
70%. And from that inability to have that medical care at that really critical time when a baby's being born, there's all these different issues that are happening.
So prolonged labor, jaundice. Over here, if a child has jaundice, instantly they're all over it. They put them in the incubator, or they put some blue light on to try and get to take care of that jaundice. Most hospitals, many hospitals in Nigeria don't have that. Sometimes they ask you to just put them out in the sun, and hopefully the sun's rays will take care of that. But hey, what if there's no sun? What if it's raining? What if it's at night?
Yeah, right.
So you lose valuable time, and eventually that short period can mean the difference between a healthy kid and a kid that has a lifelong disability.
Okay, and then the next point I want to make sure people understand is that you are treating not necessarily with pharmaceutical drugs, which may also be scarce in Nigeria or expensive, but you're treating with nutrients, nutritional supplements, nutraceuticals, like that. Can you elaborate on that a little bit about what types of nutritional supplements are most needed in Nigeria?
Absolutely. So I try to shy away, excuse me, from the word treat, because that's really not what we're doing. We're basically using these supplements or nutraceuticals as building blocks to help the body do the work that it's already trying to do, which is to heal, to repair, to regulate, to balance itself out. So the body is already trying to do it. And I really like a quote by a father in the field of biomedical biochemistry. And he said this: he said, the human body heals itself and proper nutrition provides it with the tools or the resources that it needs to accomplish that task. So the human body is already doing it. The brain is already trying to fix itself. It's just that many times it doesn't have the resources or the tools to do that. So basically what we're doing is simple as providing the tools and the resources. Now we've been fortunate in that we've had a lot of exposure to all the different tools that are out there. We can tell which is good and which one. We can tell the good from the bad and the ugly, right? And so we've been able to find the ones that actually work, and of course form relationships and friendships with the formulators, the developers, and the owners of the companies behind these products, and ship them in from the US to Nigeria and use them. So just to answer your question, Gary, one of them is omega-3s. We know high quality omega-3s, high purity omega-3s, high dose omega-3s are part of the building block of the brain structure. For instance, if you take out all the water from the brain, 60% of what is left is made up of fat. And a good proportion of that fat are the omega-3s, specifically DHA. And so if we can get the right quality and quantity into these kids' brains, and we found that out almost by accident. We just started giving these kids, because we didn't know what else to do, we just started giving to them, and boom, they were getting significant results. And then we went back and found out why it works. Other things like vitamin B complex, the B vitamins, especially B12 and I believe B6, are crucial for formation of nerve cells and brain tissue. So that's very important. We know that specific antioxidants are helpful. We know that specific anti-inflammatories too are helpful in reducing the inflammation in the brain that arises as a result of trauma or infection or whatever it is that's going. So we use a variety of things that help to stimulate or to help the brain recover and to fix itself and protect itself.
The next link in the story that you've already shared is that the government in Nigeria has sanctioned this type of services to the general public, and you're also broadcasting this on is that Nigerian TV or West African TV, or what station are you on?
It's called NTA, which is the Nigerian Television Authority, but it's the largest network in Africa, and it's on several different stations in West Africa, South Africa, by the way, and around the continent. So we happen to be the third most viewed show on that platform. So we're really blessed about it.
Well, congratulations! That's amazing. So we have a real TV rock star with us today. That's really great. Yeah, the fact that the government is allowing you to proceed with this type of work, and you'd be very hard pressed in the United States, as you correctly stated, you're not treating people, you're recommending nutritional supplements, which are basically, we could almost call them medical foods, foods that are geared towards having a value for helping the body to do what the body knows to do best. And then it's amazing to me, I was speaking with another doctor, and it's amazing that there's like something close to or around about 1 billion transactions happening inside the body at the cellular level every single second of every single day of your entire life. And not the least of which is just the fact, I mean, people may not realize it, but the human heart is beating 100,000 times a day.
Mm-hmm.
Which in 10 days, that's 1 million. And multiply that by 50, 60, 70, 80 years, that's a couple billion heartbeats. And how much attention do we pay to the health of our hearts?
Right.
And how do we treat our bodies with the actual food that we're eating and the diet that we consume? So I'm really proud of the work you're doing. And to that end, I want to make a commitment here and now that we're going to be doing a monthly donation to your clinic in Nigeria, at least 1,000, if not 1,500 or 2,000 capsules a month, getting it over to Nigeria and helping with the omega-3s at least. That's been the cornerstone of Optimal Health Bridge for 15 years. I was converted to omega-3s in 2005. And I'm religious. I'm religious about taking omega-3s. It's just part of my life now.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's
David, let's turn back the clock a little bit and just give me a little bit of your origin story. Like, you're a doctor, you have various degrees and certifications. Why did you choose becoming a doctor, and what field did you pursue, and why, especially, why did you pursue medical school growing up in Nigeria?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for that commitment and that donation. God knows we need it. So thank you so much, Gary, for that. And we will let you know how it works and give you feedback on how it's helping and all that, which is our commitment too. Thank you so much. So, in answer to your question, way back when I was 5 years of age, my mom I think it's my mom's fault. She just said, "You want to be a doctor? Doctors make the most money. Doctors are most successful." I don't know. Maybe at that age, I mean, I don't know why at that age money mattered to me, but I was hooked. But also, in addition to that, I saw I could help people more. I could help people more with by being a doctor in my mind. And also, I naturally gravitated towards subjects that were medically inclined. I mean, I was really good in biology. I was one of the best in biology and other science subjects. But medicine also has to do with history, the history of the human body, how the human body functions. I was good in history as well. So I was able to combine different things together. When I was young, I also had a lot of interest in the brain and how the mind functions. And so from an early age, I thought I was going to be a neurosurgeon. And then the other thing I also loved was human potential. I was always studying all these, motivational speakers and the personal development field ever since I was young. So all those things kind of shaped my thoughts about medicine, but in a way, it shaped my thoughts about other things as well. That took me away from medicine for quite a while because I was talking about human potential. In medicine, you're not really looking at human potential as much as focused on the disease. So, the whole idea of medicine is to fix a problem. Well, I also wanted to look at what to do if the person is already okay. In other words, the person doesn't have any specific issues, he's just average, but yet he wants to improve his brain function, or he wants to improve how one part of his body functions, or he wants to improve what really wasn't broken, but wasn't optimal. And so, like I said, human potential has always been of interest to me. And so in the process of us, just to cut back to your question, I started in Nigeria at that point. After graduation, I started a residency in radiation oncology, which was what was available to me at that time, but always with the thought I was going to do neurosurgery. But while I was doing radiation oncology and treating cancer patients, I began to see more and more that this aspect of helping the human body or helping people optimize their health and their lives, to me, was more appealing. And so I basically upped and left, this almost 20 years ago, came to the US to find the answers to the questions I was looking for. And after a lot of roundabouts, I did a master's in human resource management. Later on, switched to nonprofit management. And then I began to learn more and more about human potential and began to learn about nutrition and how much nutrition played a role in improving human function and human structure. So that kind of brought me back into medicine and did things that I'm doing now, to cut a long story short.
You told me just recently that you have a book on Amazon. The title is Powerful People Lead Healthy Lifestyles.
Yes.
And I haven't read it yet, but that sort of fits in with your story just now, that you're really looking at what works for the human body to excel, to achieve. And that certainly has a lot to do with stress and autonomic nervous system and the sympathetic, parasympathetic modes of balancing our lives to be well-rounded, having fun, and achieving. I read in your bio also that you were an athlete. Was that when you're in your college days, you were an athlete?
Not so much in my college days, but I did go to a military school. So by default, everyone is an athlete. I mean, we train like crazy. We do long distance runs every week and all that. So, I mean, we were trained to be athletes. But in terms of the actual competitive athlete, I did not start. Racquetball became my love when I came to the US. And so, yeah, I got really into it. It was a way of relieving stress and being in a foreign land and trying to survive, and eventually got good at it and won the state championship in racquetball in my category. So
Okay. So you're a TV celebrity. You're a state champion in racquetball. Okay, we're building the story here. We're getting all the details. It's really great. You mentioned so you had three areas that we wanted to cover. The first one was about, which is really very important in this day and age, is strengthening the immune system. And do you want to speak on that for a minute?
Yeah. Gosh, Gary, I got to tell you, the more I live and the more I work with this, the more I realize how central the immune system is to pretty much everything, especially in this COVID-19 period. So the immune system pretty much is so connected with the brain and vice versa. But not just that, but the immune system it's like a Voltron. It addresses all the cells. There are 25% of all the cells in our body are actually immune system cells, and the immune system that is acts as a surveillance mechanism to ensuring that all the cells and tissues of your body are working adequately. And if there's a problem, the immune system is first to recognize that, to locate that, and to address it. So it's not just about bugs and infection that the immune system is concerned with. It's about everything, the whole, shall we say, the well-being of your body as a whole. It is your immune system's responsibility to do that. And so we started understanding. So I started looking at, okay, whatever you do, you got to do whatever condition you have. You've got to address the immune system, whatever it is. And so we started using the immune system supplements and nutraceuticals for the brain. We found out that it works super well for sickle cell disease. Can you imagine that? And now, in fact, we're about to start a research study to show that strengthening the immune system can go a long way towards helping kids live a normal life. I mean, no one had ever heard of that before, but we discovered that through our work. Lung disorders, kidney disorders, blood disorders. You gotta help the immune system do what it needs to do, especially in the COVID-19 period. Again, it's about the immune system. And so what I tell people is that once you strengthen your immune system, you can, the people who have had the COVID-19 worst hit I mean, if you can boil it down to one sentence, it's those who have poorly functioning immune systems for whatever reason, whether it's a chronic disease, whether it's obesity, whether it's hypertension, for whatever reason, there's underlying all this is a poorly functioning immune system. And there are two things about that before we go on to the next thing. The two things about the immune system, especially where COVID-19 is concerned, one is immune incompetence, where the immune system is simply not working like it should. And then the other number two, I was going to lift up the wrong finger for a minute there. But number two.
Okay, got it.
Immune system dysfunction. So number one is incompetence. Number two is dysfunction. So if you think about it, if the COVID-19 is especially susceptible to a strong immune system. So for the 80% of us who survive and do well, even when infected with COVID-19, is because our immune system stopped it from going any further down our throats. So maybe we might have a fever, you might have cough, you might have a runny nose, you might have a loss of smell, but that's because the immune system and your body are fighting the COVID-19 at this level. If the virus finds its way to your lungs and starts causing trouble, it's because your immune system simply wasn't able to handle it. And that could be also, let me put this as a side note, it could also be because you had a huge amount injected into you. Maybe someone coughed in your face, or you're working in the ICU and somehow it got through and all that. So that's by the side. But for the most part, those who have a problem in their lungs and the rest of their body from COVID-19 is because their immune system was incompetent at keeping it up here. When it becomes dysfunctional is when what should have just stayed in the lungs or stayed around the lungs and fixed is when it becomes systemic, when the immune system is now going haywire and attacking not just the virus, but attacking the lungs, attacking the kidneys, and attacking the brain and the blood vessels. And that's when we talk about immune system dysfunction. And it basically means that the immune system is not reined in, it's not modulated, it's not regulated like it should be regulated. And the big problem there is vitamin D, which I'll just throw in now that vitamin D, they found out that the vitamin D helps to regulate the immune system. And those who have low vitamin D levels tend to have low immune system regulation.
Right. So just as a simple example of that, what I've experienced with working with the immune system, for example, allergies to tree pollen or dust, that is an immune response. That sneezing and coughing and hacking, your body is saying no to something that's part of nature and part of your environment. So, if you get that immune system regulated through various supplements that we can recommend, those allergies just disappear. And I'll put in a little plug, a little recommendation for a product that I've been using for 15 years. It's called Epicor. It's a high metabolite immunogen, and it increases the natural killer cells in that mucosal barrier, exactly what you were talking about, by 60%. Within 2 hours of taking one capsule, the mucosal barrier is filled with these NKs, the natural killer cells, that prevents that virus from traveling further. And sometimes you wake up with a stuffy nose. Well, that mucus in this whole part of your head, that is protection for your body. So let's be thankful if we have to blow our nose once in a while and clear things out. We're being protected by our natural immune system. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. So just quick one too. You said allergies. Well, asthma too. And even autism too. Immune system plays a huge role in those things, in those conditions as well. So
even autism.
Autism, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to make a recommendation. Anyone watching this, if you have, if there's any questions you have about autism, brain function, sickle cell anemia, those are really the main points that you've been doing considerable amount of work in helping people, not just back home in Nigeria, but also here in the States. Is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Good. But I want to ask about these keys to brain health. I attended a webinar where you taught about brain health quite a bit. What are some things, for example, I'm 67 years old, and of course, people around me, my age and a little bit older, they're very fearful of dementia and Alzheimer's. And are there preventatives for keeping your marbles?
Yeah, keeping your marbles. I used to use that title when I would go to retirement homes. I loved going to retirement homes because that's where, I mean, people really appreciated what we had to talk about, because they could look back at their lives and they could say, yeah, this is where I failed here, or this is where I didn't do what I was supposed to do. So they could look back and say, yeah, this is what works. Yeah, so yeah, you're right. Brain health, the brain has always been my interest. So because we don't have access to all the tools and the resources and the tests and all that, we like to keep it as basic as possible. So let's start with general thoughts. General thoughts about sleep. It's very important to have quality sleep, which means lights should be off, phones, any electronics should be away from your body, because all this affects your sleep. Teeth should be healthy. You need to make sure you avoid gum disease, because that, believe it or not, can affect brain health. So you don't want to sit down for too long. You want to stand up and walk around. And again, that affects brain health, and of course obesity, and keep your weight low. Now, if you really want to do something aggressive and radical about, well, maybe not radical, but aggressively to control and protect your brain, I forgot to mention too, you need to keep your brain active by learning and discovering new things, and just keeping it tasking your brain. So that's by the side. Now, if he has an issue with dementia, or you're staring down the barrel of a brain disorder, you want to start with the basics. And we cannot start, there's no basic that you can use other than, if you don't do omega-3 fatty acids, you're really not dealing with the basics. You've got to start with omega-3 fatty acids. So in addition to that, now there are now supplements that we use that help to stimulate brain repair. And there are supplements that can be used to stimulate what is known as apoptosis, which is programmed cell death. Many times we find that there are cells in the brain that are not working like they should. Maybe they are misfiring. Maybe they're just dead or decaying or damaged, and they're just in the way. So sometimes your body needs to be able to get rid of that, kill them, or fix them. If you can't fix them, if you kill them, then you get them out of the way. That's important as well. There are also supplements that can help stimulate stem cell formation. It's a tragedy that up till now, that medical students are still being taught that once brain cells die, they cannot be replaced. There's no regeneration or new formation of brain cells. That is not true. We know that the brain does make new cells, so there are supplements that can help to stimulate that process. And the last but not the least, you cannot treat the brain. You cannot help in recovery of the brain without treating the gut as well, because the brain and the gut have a very symbiotic relationship. If you don't treat the gut, and there's another talk on its own, you might as well be fighting with both hands behind your back and both eyes blindfold.
Right. Yeah, I've read that the gut actually transmits twice as many messages to the brain as the brain is sending to the gut. So it is a two-way street, but there's more traffic coming from the gut going to your brain, which obviously would influence your thinking, influence your decision making. And we have these sayings in English. We say, well, trust your gut.
Right.
What's your gut telling you?
Right, exactly.
So,
very true.
So it's pretty interesting that maybe, I think it's also, the gut is also called the second brain, right?
Yes, it does.
It's also the,
some people argue it's the first brain. I wouldn't go so far. The point is taken.
And it's also where the most serotonin is produced in the body.
90%.
90%. Okay. Good. We got that established. I appreciate it.
Dopamine is 50%.
Yeah. So
again, it underscores the importance. I mean, you're here working on the brain. Meanwhile, probably one of top 3 most important neurotransmitters are made and used in the gut. And you're here up there working on the brain and not paying any attention to the gut. I mean, that it doesn't make sense.
Right. And that's part of the whole holistic view of health, that you can't really just treat shoulders, right? No, I don't treat the neck. I only treat the shoulder. That's an actual quote from an orthopedic surgeon. No, I don't do neck. It's just shoulder.
I can go you one better. Orthopedic, it's another orthopedic surgeon who only treats the right big toe.
Oh, okay.
Not left, I'm right-handed, so I work on only the right big toe.
He's specialized.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so now you're going to have to educate me, because I do not know exactly what sickle cell anemia is. If you could describe that, and whether it's a myth or whether it's true. Is it only African American people in our country, or African people? Is it a disease that's ethnically targeted?
Yeah, so let me start with that question. Yeah, so it's predominantly, shall we say, among Black people, and Nigeria having the most number of Black people in the world. So it has the largest amount and the most severe forms in Nigeria itself, but it's not restricted, confined to Black people. So darker skinned people, so the Arabs, the Indians. India is actually pretty big too with sickle cell disease. Hispanics too are affected by sickle cell disease, and of course you have the mixed races. So to some degree, you can have sickle cell disease mixed in there. But yeah, by far it's in Africa, and by far it's in Nigeria. And to answer your first question, Gary, so primarily sickle cell disease is a genetic blood disorder, which means it's in the DNA, in which there's red blood cells are born with a sort of weakness. It has to do with the DNA again. A specific protein, amino acids, is replaced by another. And that tiny mutation makes the sickle cell, I want to use the word weak. Makes the red blood cell weak in a certain way, so that once it's in the bloodstream and it's under pressure, that pressure could be an infection, that pressure could be dehydration, that pressure could be just a physical pressure. Maybe it's passing through a very tight blood vessel. Under circumstances of stress, like those I just mentioned, it ends up turning from a nice, round, flexible, rubbery ball, which is a red blood cell, into a shriveled up, hard, brittle cell called this, which is like it's sickle shaped, hence the term sickle cell. And because it's not rubbery, because it's not soft like the other one is, it tends to get stuck in the blood vessels, and another thing it does is that it tends to aggregate and accumulate and form a plug. So it blocks the blood vessels. And you can imagine once there's a blockage anywhere, the cells after the blockage tend to scream out, they cry out, they can even die. It's called inflammation and eventually death. And that's really what happens. We see a lot of kids, especially the younger years, have swollen hands, swollen feet, swollen stomachs, because of this constant blockage and release of the blood vessels. The other thing that can happen is that those cells, because they are weak, they could just spontaneously just erupt and break up and spill their contents. So therefore reducing the blood level, the hematocrits, or the PCV, what we term PCV. So the average human being is supposed to have like around between 35 to 40% of red blood cells in their system. Just children with sickle cell disease, adults with sickle cell disease, seem to have around 25. So we're looking at a difference of about a factor of at least 10. If you don't have enough blood in your body, there's a likely tendency that a lot of things can go wrong. A lot of things do go wrong, including you're always tired all the time, you're not growing like you should, you're not developing like you should, and you're more prone to certain diseases.
If your red blood cells are cut down by that amount, I could understand that you'd be tired, wouldn't have any strength, not able to work. And then, of course, that'll lead to a lot of psychological problems as well, because you can't keep up, and you can't be the same as your peers. You can't contribute to your family. It's got to be a really tough thing to deal with.
Yeah.
And you have ways of helping people with that disorder. That's
Right. Oh,
all
most definitely,
supplement.
yes. Most definitely, yes. I'm super excited about it because this is a problem that is affecting so many people around the world, and the smartest minds have looked into it, and they haven't been able to come up with very satisfactory results. Certainly not for us in the third world countries. And we found out that so when we started looking into it, in fact, like I said, that was not our focus initially. Initially, we just started having kids come in with brain disorders. Since brain disorders was our focus, we started looking at them. Kids before the age of 10 would have 2, 3, sometimes 4 strokes before the age of 10. And so when we started looking into it, we saw that there were 4 main areas that they were weak in. And since our philosophy is to build strength where there is weakness, we said, okay, let's start addressing it. Number 1 was immune function. Number 2 was inflammation. Number 3 was free radical damage or oxidative stress, for which we use antioxidants. And number 4 is that almost globally, almost without exception, they all have very low levels of nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a gas which the body produces to help to dilate and improve the health of the blood vessels. So if there's not enough nitric oxide, it means the blood vessels are tight. Therefore, the blood cells can't go through like they should, which of course causes problems. I mean, you don't want your blood, if your kidneys need blood, they need blood. You don't want to reduce the amount of blood they need by a factor of 2 or 3 when they should be having free flow of blood. And so so nitric oxide helps to do that. And so I mean, my initial thought was, let's just start from the top of the list and then work our way downwards. Let's see what strengthening the immune system does. And then if it doesn't work as well, we'll go on to the next one. To our surprise, Gary, using the supplement that we used, which is an extract from aloe vera, which has been known for its work with the immune system, we found radical, tremendous, remarkable, use whatever adjective you might want to use, but significant improvements in their quality of life. Everything from their fatigue, their energy levels, pain levels. They could go to school now. They could play soccer. They could do everything their peers were doing simply because we strengthened their immune systems.
So the aloe vera also supports that nitric oxide creation?
You know, I don't think it does, but we were focused on the immune function. So I think most of what it does is strengthen the immune system, and simply strengthening the immune system was what was responsible for many of the results that we're getting.
Oh, good. That's really great. Yeah. So I've learned about nitric oxide through Dr. Harry using arginine to
Yes.
facilitate the creation of nitric oxide. And then I found a video on YouTube with that Nobel Peace Prize winner whose name I'm not going to be able to say.
Louis Ignarro.
Thank you. I knew you'd be able to say it. Yeah. And amazing thing. He said one way to improve nitric oxide is to breathe through the nose.
Really?
That helps create nitric oxide. If you're a mouth breather, if you're breathing through your mouth, you're not creating nitric oxide. If you breathe through your nose, you're creating nitric oxide.
Interesting.
Yeah. There's so many amazing things that we can learn if, I guess when you get that degree and you graduate and you're certified to do this, that, and the other thing, that's not where you stop learning. You got to keep going back to the well. And now we have all these amazing resources at our fingertips with our smartphones to be able to Google just about anything and come up with an NIH study or some meta-analysis of this or that or the other. And it just adds to our body of knowledge and helps us to be better at working with people to improve health. And that's really, I think, what I find most intriguing is that the commonality is that there are people in this world like you who really have a gift and a way to address people's needs and doing it in a third world country where there's not going to be a great deal of money or support backing you. And you're making it happen. So I tip my hat to you, and I really appreciate that. Was there anything else that you felt was important to share before we close out today?
Um, yeah, again, thanks for having me. There's just the whole thing about vitamin D, vitamin C, and zinc, which you've heard a lot about these days. I got to say that those three also work in, I would say those are the foundation from what I've seen now for good health, not just immune system health, but for health in general, brain health, as well as body health. I mean, if you can't do the big ones, you really need to do those three plus fiber, which is psyllium husk, which helps with the digestive system. We said a little bit about the importance of the gut health. Fiber is probably one of the most important things for the gut. So those four, I would say people should get serious about and put as part of their daily regimen.
So basically, the way I heard that, zinc, which costs pennies, vitamin C, which is really cheap, zinc, vitamin C, vitamin D, and fiber, which is, I don't think I spent $10 yet. You've given me a solution that'll last me a whole month to protect my immune system, help me to be healthy, and add some omega-3. That's not very expensive either. So,
well, the good ones may cost a little more. The really good ones, unless he has really subsidizing stuff over there.
Right. We promote a 700 milligram per thousand, so 70% EPA DHA.
Oh wow!
High potency. For if you I guess you get what you pay for eventually. So I always recommend small batches done by a professional unit where you're going to get a really high quality product. So you can check out True Omega-3 on Optimal Health Bridge. And again, we'll put this in the video, but your website is brainandbodyfoundation.org. Is that right?
Correct. ORG.
And your personal website is drdavidajibade.com. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
So people who want to get in touch with you, it's drdavidajibade.com, and you'll have a way to get in contact with Dr. David. I appreciate so much you being here and thankful for your time. And I know it's not fun down there in Texas right now with all that polar vortex coming in there. So I'm going to let you go so you can go do whatever other work you've got, but really appreciate your time. Thank you, Dr. David.
Thank you so much for having me, Gary.